Hey, this is Brandon with A2 Bikes. I'm our head mechanic over here. Congrats on your new purchase. I'm going to go over a few steps to get your Rogue unboxed and built and ready to ride. So when you open your box, you're going to see a few things in there. There will be a small box with a little bit of accessories in it. Any accessories you purchase separately will not be inside that box. These will be inside the large box that the bike came in. So all of these parts are what we're going to need to assemble the bike. You're going to have a seat post in your saddle. You're going to have your seat post wedge. This is what attaches the seat post to the bike. You're going to have a stem cover. Now with the Rogue Force and Red, you're going to have a carbon stem. So this only applies to Rival, 105, and Apex. Then you got the stem hardware, stem faceplate, and your torque wrench. And torque wrench is going to come with an extended 4mm bit to help you tighten this seat wedge. This is very important. This will be your tool to assemble the entire bike. Make sure anything you're tightening that's carbon, you use this. All right, you guys, let's get into the build. So when you pull your Rogue out of the box, you're going to strip all of the foam off of it. Go ahead and toss that to the side. Save your box, though, in case when we do a fitting or something, if you accidentally got the wrong size, you're going to need that box to send the bike back so we could swap you out. So just hang on to it for a little bit till you get your feet on the bike and get a leg over it and see how it feels. Once you get all the foam off of the bike, first thing we're going to do is we're going to throw the front wheel on. The front wheel is just inside the box next to the bicycle. And for this, we're going to need a 6mm Allen key. And so I'm going to pull that long 4mm out. And I'm going to pull this 6mm. Over here is a through axle. We unscrewed the through axle with the 6mm Allen key, and it just slides right out. Now, the great thing about disc brakes is you don't have to worry about aligning the wheel or anything. There will be a little orange pad spacer in here. Just pop that right out. It should come out very easily. And then we just slide the front wheel right in and just set it down. You slide this front through axle through and just tighten it down. Now, you're going to want to tighten it a little tighter than what this torque wrench goes to. This torque wrench goes to 5 Newton meters. Really, the through axle should be about 10. So go a little beyond what the torque wrench tells you. So torque wrench is 5 Newton meters. The reason we do the front wheel first is because it makes the bike stand up like this. It's just a little easier to work on now. Next thing we're going to go to here is the seat post wedge. So we've got this little tiny wedge right here. And the way it's oriented is very important. And so this wedge, it's going to say A2 on it. The A2 is going to be upside down. And you're going to put the little bolt right here facing the little hole in the frame. There's a little hole down there. You just want that bolt to line up with this hole. Kind of stuff it in there like that. And then we take our seat post and slide it in. Now we take our 4mm extended Allen bit and we find the bolt inside here and we just start tightening. And just go until it clicks. This torque wrench, when you hit 5 Newton meters, it gives you a very defined click. There you go. Seat post is in. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the handlebars onto the stem. Now, the reason we have these routed externally for the 105, the Axis, and the Rival models is for fitting purposes. Specifically with this stem, if you go to get a bike fit and it's all internally routed, whoever fits you, if they need to do a stem change, is going to have to recable the entire bike if they do that. This way, with the cables routed externally for now, it's very easy to do a stem swap if you needed to, if you needed a longer one or a shorter one. So in the future, if you don't like the look of the external cables, you could absolutely take it to a shop and have it routed internally if you would like. On the faceplate, on one of the sides of the faceplate, there's a little arrow. You're going to line up the arrow with the top right corner of the stem. So we're going to go ahead and put these bars on there. We're just going to put that faceplate on. Now, FSA stems are a little different than most. So most stems, you want an even gap on the top and an even gap on the bottom. So you're kind of evenly tightening each bolt. However, with FSA stems, you go ahead and tighten the top ones all the way. The top of the faceplate needs to be contacting the stem. So we're just going to go ahead and tighten those all the way up. Don't need to torque them yet, just get them to, it's touching the stem. It's kind of nice and loose, so this way you can manipulate your bars. Now here's where you're going to kind of feel for your position. I kind of like a neutral wrist position. You kind of want your wrist relaxed, and so when you're looking at the side of your bike, your hood should ever so slightly tilt up, giving you a nice relaxed wrist. If you roll these things forward, your wrists are going to be locked out and your elbows are going to be locked out. So try to make a nice slight rise in those hoods right there. There's some lettering in the center here. Make sure that's centered in between the stem plate. You got your nice little bar fit. And now we're going to tighten down those bottom ones and we're going to torque them. So we're going to go all the way until your torque wrench clicks. All right. Now that's all torqued and those are good to go. You always want to double check. If you ever disassemble your bike or travel with it or anything, or buy a new bike and pull it out of the box, you always want to make sure your stem pinch bolts are snug too. We snug these out of the factory once they ship to you, so they should be tight already, but it's always a good thing just to make sure these guys are nice and snug. We're good to go. So now your cockpit is all assembled and good. We have a little faceplate that we could put in the bottom here to kind of clean up the way these cables look. I'm going to show you how to do that. There's just this little piece of plastic right here, and it slides in and connects just like that. And there's two little tiny bolts down here that just screw in and attach it to the stem, and you're good to go. Now all we have to do is add your favorite pedals, whichever pedals you're using. It's a universal threading, and so any pedal on the market should work just fine for you. All right, now that we got the bike assembled, a few little details here to remember before you go out on your first ride. It's always important to make sure you put air in your tires every single time you ride. Okay, a lot of people will go out and they'll put air in your tires once every week or two. The thing is, you'll lose a few PSI every night, even if you don't have a puncture. And so you want to make sure that you're putting the correct pressure in there. There's going to be a recommended tire pressure on the side here. I recommend everybody goes on the lower end of that. Now, if you're running carbon wheels and you get tubeless, we're going to go much lower than that. Even we're looking at like the 60s and 70s or even lower possibly. So always check your tire pressure. Make sure you're putting air in there every single time you go ride. Next thing here, all of our models of the Rogue have hydraulic disc brakes. And so the cool thing about hydraulic disc brakes is they're very powerful. They work just like your vehicle that you drive. And they don't really need to be adjusted. They kind of self-adjust as you use them. Now, here's the thing, though. You don't want to intentionally clean your disc brakes. You need to just kind of leave them alone unless they start making a lot of noise. Now, if you ride in the rain, this is generally where the squeaking starts. And typically, that's because some oil from the road has gotten on the rotor. And so if your rotors do start squeaking, the first thing you want to do, don't wait to do this. Do it as soon as you get home. Clean it off with some rubbing alcohol and a clean paper towel. Just spray it on the rotor and wipe it down. That should dissolve the oil from the road and stop that squeaking. Now, if you do several more rides with that squeaking, it's going to bury that oil into the pads and into the rotor, and then it's going to be a little bit more expensive of a fix. And so, but when you're going over just basic maintenance for this bike and washing it and cleaning it, make sure to not go out of your way and intentionally clean the brakes and rotors. Like, you can spray them off at the hose, but that's really kind of all they need unless they're really making some nasty noises. The bicycle itself is full carbon fiber. Everything else on it is aluminum. And so this could be watched with just some plain old Simple Green or Dawn dish soap. Try to avoid any degreasers or anything that are flammable. Generally, that kind of stuff can eat up grease inside bearings and things like that. So I typically tell people to avoid anything flammable. Simple Green is our go-to. Dawn dish soap is really great for the frames. There's a company called Muck Off that we're a really big fan of. They make a really great matte paint polish, and so it kind of cleans up the matte look on there, because if you touch this thing with greasy fingers, you will see a fingerprint. So the matte bike detailer is really, really great too. All right, so now that we've covered all the basic maintenance and everything, let's cover the riding part. Now, when you go out on your first ride, you're going to need to adjust this thing. You're going to want to make sure your seat height's right and your reach is right and everything. It's fine to just kind of eyeball it and ballpark it off of what you've been riding or been using, but we highly, highly, highly recommend getting yourself a professional fitting. In our opinion, that's the most valuable purchase you can make for any bicycle. I would get a $500 fitting before I bought a $3,000 pair of carbon wheels. It's worth every penny. It will save you a lot of time. It'll save you a lot of energy, and it will prevent a lot of injuries in the future as well. So fits are very, very important. Go get one. Oftentimes on your first ride, there's going to be a lot of tweaks happening. I do recommend taking the torque wrench with you on your first ride or two, just in case you need to make a stem tweak or a seat tweak or something. That way you're able to re-torque this and you don't under-torque it and slam the post down, or you don't over-torque it and crack something. So this little guy's going to be your friend. That's why we send the mini torque keys. This will fit in a little saddlebag generally. And so just don't forget the extended 4mm bit. You're going to need that to get to the seat post. Saddle adjustments happen underneath here. You have 2 5mm bolts on each side. You're going to kind of loosen them evenly, and you can move your seat forward and backward. You could tighten the rear and it raises the front. And if you tighten the front bolt, it puts the front nose down. And so you just kind of play around with it. We ship these saddles nice and level, which is generally how the vast majority of people are going to ride. Everyone's different. More than likely, the majority of you are going to end up replacing your saddle and putting one of your favorites on there. Along with the pedals, we say hand, seat, and feet are the 3 big things for making a bike comfortable. So you got to make sure you got good handlebars, good gloves, a good saddle, and a nice pair of pedals and shoes. This is a really, really good thing to have. And so if you bought accessories with the bike, like bottle cages, do not use the torque wrench to tighten the bottle cages. You're just going to go about hand tight with these bottle cage bolts. These are not meant to be torqued that high. So I would just use this 4mm Allen key on here and just get it just snug. This is fine, but don't go all the way with the torque wrench on the bottle cage bolts. All right, you guys, now that we're finished with this build, I do want to give you a little disclaimer here. If at any point you feel like you're in over your head, or something doesn't feel right, it's a bolt's not going in correctly, or something's not fitting, just stop, go check with your local bike shop, or give us a ring, shoot us an email. We're happy to walk you through it. More often than not, it's something really simple that happened, and it's just a slight mistake. And so these things assemble very easily. Any bike shop in the country can work on them. They're very, very common parts, and they're very easy to troubleshoot and problem solve. And so do make sure, though, that if at any point you feel in over your head, call your local bike shop or call us, and we'll walk you through it happily. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. Go have fun. Be safe.